Thank you for joining me today. On behalf of Novia Solutions, I quickly wanted to go over some best practices for resume formatting. So one of the benefits of working with a staffing agency is that they are able to format resumes for you. However, we also want to make sure that we're providing candidates with the tools that they need in order to format their resumes themselves if that is something that they prefer to do. So on the right hand side, you can see we have the key takeaways that we'll be talking about throughout this video. And on the left-hand side, we do have a sample resume. So just to dive right in, best practice number one is to always include your credentials with your name at the top of your resume. This way, as soon as someone opens your resume, they can see what your credentials are and how they relate to the position that you're applying for. Moving on from there, it's always important to include a professional summary. This gives a brief overview of the key functional areas that you've been over throughout your career and will really give a broader vision of what you've been working in. Then moving on from there to professional experience, best practice is to always include months and years of employment. And you also always want to include the name of the facility, of course, as well as the city and state. That way, by including the city and state, there's no confusion if there are two facilities with the same name or one facility with multiple locations. A hiring manager can always immediately identify exactly where it was that you were working. Of course, it's essential to always include your title. And then one thing that I think that this resume does really well that not all resumes do is it provides a brief overview of the specific facility and the unit that this individual was working in. So this gives the reader a better picture of how your experience with this facility relates to the hospital that you're applying to. Then moving on, what really makes this resume stand out is that they list their specific accomplishments while in this role, and they use key metric improvements to show exactly how they were able to accomplish these changes. One thing that I always suggest is listing what the key metrics were when you started the position, what they were when you ended, and what that percent change was. Then this resume also goes on to give a brief overview of what their strategies were and how they were able to achieve those accomplishments. It's really important to include this information for every position on your resume, as that will really make it stand out against those resumes that don't include that information. Then moving on to education and certifications, of course, it's essential to include all relevant certifications so that hiring managers can make sure that you have the specific certifications that are required for the position that you're applying for. And when listing your education, of course, it's always important to include the name of the facility as well as the city and state, again, so that that is easily identifiable. And last thing, this is a little bit more specific and relates to clinicians, but it's always best practice to include the states that you are actively licensed in, as well as what the expiration dates are for those licenses, so that if a hiring manager is looking at your resume, they can easily see that you're applying for a position in California and your license is active in California and everything is good to go. So if you have any additional questions, please feel free to reach out to us at Novia Solutions. But in the meantime, happy formatting.